$50,000. But then you go see a doctor, he's making a living on 400, 500, 600,000. And when you sit down there in that chair, he's making 5 times more than you are. The dentist, same thing. And that's the problem.
Well,
There's a lot of...
we've got to reform healthcare, but I think
You
we
bet.
did it the wrong
And
way.
insurance
And
has brought it
insurance.
up that. It has taken it up from, say, like $100 a day hospital stay to $400. And somebody's got to wake up.
And what's interesting is everybody, I think, agrees that what we want is the same thing. And that's for everybody to be covered with health care.
And
So
we
that they
could be
can,
if everybody paid.
and I believe there's a better way to do it
Yeah.
than this bill. So I'm hopeful if the federal court won't throw it out so we can have this discussion sooner than later, then maybe some new friends that come to Washington in January 2013 would help us repeal it and replace it with something that might work better for us to address the issue that you bring up, and that is the affordability. See, in all of these 2,400 pages, it does nothing to address the issue, and that's the out-of-control costs associated. And you can do some things, like you mentioned, competition, medical malpractice reform. I mean, the list goes on, but right now, we don't get to have that debate because the law of the land is still before us.
We're on a sinking ship.
I know we are. We can't continue on this trajectory. The last couple years, we have spent $1.5 trillion more than we take in. You can't do that. And the projections show it just gets worse because our population is aging and there's going to be additional costs.
Yeah.
So we're in trouble.
You mentioned you were after having voted for, which you haven't lost a vote yet, but you're close.
Okay.
For the Reed bill,
Yes.
that we had made a step in the right direction. I think the Republican Party has snookered it in because I would say that you're between a rock and a hard spot, but what you're really between is tax increases or get the military. That's what it's going to amount to in the long run, because there isn't going to be consensus with this group of 12.
Yeah.
So and that automatically cuts in what, the first of the year?
Yeah.
So, and the only one that's going to get is the military.
I think that's why.
Something else we really need, everyone needs to do, is explain to people what baseline budgeting is. When you talk about cuts, you're not cutting anything, you're simply reducing a percentage.
Well, you're right. That was a very tough vote for a lot of people, because I think everyone has said enough already, let's not borrow any money. But
I think something would have gotten done though, immediately. Something
you have to be a grown-up and address the fact that the spending, somebody voted for this spending long ago when these entitlement programs, and if you're not willing, if you can't get the Senate to take an up or down vote on cutting something, then your bills are coming due. Just to not pay them doesn't mean that you've addressed the problem of cutting them back. And the costs that could be associated by racking up bills and accruing interest is irresponsible. And every time we brought something else up in the House, we got less. We got less cuts. We started with cap and balance, which was the Ryan Republican House budget. Then we got Boehner, which was less. Then we got Reed. So every day we talked about it, we were getting less.
You compromise with yourself. You didn't compromise with them.
Well,
Now, they talked about, you folks didn't compromise. You started with a compromise. You cut cap and balance. That's exactly what Standard & Poor's wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But is it compromise when you set it on the desk and not even discuss it? That's not compromise.
And that's what we were up against.
Yeah.
Is
And then, Ryan's budget. Did they discuss that? No.
they killed
That's
it.
not compromise. You were the ones who were accused of not compromising.
Yeah, and that's just ridiculous.
But you don't defend yourselves.
Well, we don't have much help from the media. I will tell you that.
Newt Gingrich did a great job defending himself last night.
Yeah,
That's
he
what
did.
you all need to do.
Yeah, it's hard when you don't have a stage. And the best we can do is come do these kind of things and explain to you how that all went down, and ask people to tell their friends and family, because I'm not gonna get any time on a cable news network to talk to folks about it. And yeah, there was no way for us to win. We only have 1/3 of the body. 2/3 beats 1/3 every day of the week. They weren't moving, we were moving. I think at the end of the day, it came down to, if Obama is so proud of this economy and didn't want to change anything, then he can own it, and we're not going to co-own that problem with him. And had we driven past August 2nd, I think the House would have been a partial owner to a meager GDP growth, a ridiculously high unemployment rate, a market that's going up and down, a downgrade in this.
Are we not already there?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. This is the president's economy. This is what he wanted. He was unwilling to give us what we feel like the American people have demanded from us. And so if he's proud of it, then he can defend that at the ballot box next fall.
But I really think the big thing.
Not attacking the S&P.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they made it perfectly clear they wanted 4 trillion. There wasn't any hesitation.
I don't know why the other two don't downgrade.
Well, Moody said they were going to,
I
but they
mean,
haven't.
You can't be at 100% of your GDP, your debt, and expect anyone to think that's a good place to be. And you know, that's why we were so determined to get something. And you know, it's never going to be the way we want it, because we only have one body, unless they change government the way it works.
Can we do anything before we eliminate baseline budgeting? Because there are no cuts until you hit that base.
Right.
So
There are actually cuts in this for the first time, I think, maybe ever. 25% in discretionary spending. And you're right, the trigger is so ugly to what the sacred cows of the Democrat Party, and so ugly for the sacred cows of the Republicans' defense, that it puts tremendous pressure on us coming to some conclusion with this committee. And you know, my hope is that they let the light shine in, and we can all see what's going on in that room and what they're talking about, because I think that will be real telling. You know, if they want to talk about helping to grow our way out of this economy, then they need to do the fundamental tax reform that we just talked about. That's not a tax increase, but it's a way to grow the economy and grow revenues with making fundamental changes, taking away the loopholes, lowering the rate. Everybody would be happy. On a static model of budgeting that we use, that's revenue neutral. But anybody that pokes it into a dynamic model knows that it's growth. So I think that's one thing they could do in this committee to really help. And there's pressure to do it, but we'll see.
You'll find it's interesting. I'm reading Eisenhower by Stephen Ambrose in 1952. Exactly the same situation here. The trigger for Eisenhower to get into the race was Harry Truman proposed a $14 billion budget.
Wow. Well, we wouldn't give for that now. Yeah, when you're looking at over $3 trillion.
But it was just reversed.
Yeah. Isn't that
Very
something?
interesting.
Yeah, we're at a bad place.
Do you know at what point in history that our government, our nation went into debt?
We have a chart that when we went into debt, it spikes at World War II. I mean, we have a little bit, and then it spikes at World War II, and then we get it, you know, we pay it off, it comes down. And then
To zero?
never to zero. I mean, it's like a household. You're always going to have, or most people, a mortgage on your home. You know, when it comes to building roads and bridges, which, you know, behind defense is probably one of the key structures of the federal government. Those kind of things I think people rationalize because they're long-term projects they can be budgeted for. We shouldn't be borrowing money to pay, though, for, you know, the majority of our budget, because that's like day-to-day living expenses. But if you're talking about really investing in a long-term project, roads and bridges, so there's always been a certain amount of debt. But when it really, when it takes off is just these last couple of years. And part of that is, you know, again, just the way the administration sees the government is spending money as a way to stimulate the economy, which I think has proven not to work. And part of it is just simply Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. It's a demographic issue. Those entitlements were passed long ago, you know, when we didn't live as long. Our population is aging, and that, again, I think the only way you can get the debt under control is to address those programs, which we did in our budget. And again, I know a lot of people were trying to scare seniors, but it did nothing. It changed nothing for people 55 and older, because those people have been planning on those programs all their life. You know, you can't change the rules at that stage in their life. But those of us that are pushing 50, well, I've got time to react. I can make changes. So what we suggested was making some changes to those that are 55 and under. And what under our plan, it eliminates the deficit, so we balance our budget, and it eliminates the public debt over time. And there are some on my right who will say, well, that doesn't, it doesn't balance soon enough. You know, they want the budget balanced by Christmas and the debt eliminated by Easter. Well, we can do that. This isn't rocket science. This is just numbers. You can do that, but then you're going to cut seniors. I'm not willing to do that. You know, so that's why I supported a more thoughtful. It's taken decades, like you say, to get in this mess. It's going to take a few years to get out.
You know, one of the things that I think I have the biggest issue with Washington and any legislative person, they really don't live in our world. I mean, they make lots of money. They have great health care. We haven't had health care for 5 or 6 years now. We made the most money we ever made in our life 2 years ago, and we broke $50,000. And last year we dropped to lower than we had made in about 7 years. This year, I don't know what we're going to do. We couldn't afford a health care plan if we wanted to. I mean, we don't owe anything. We own our cars. We don't have credit cards, and we do have a mortgage. We worked hard to come to that place because we don't want to be in debt, because we know what that's like. We're both veterans. We have had a tough life. You know, we felt like we served our country. We came out and immediately couldn't find jobs. And it started to spiral down from there. And then kids start coming along. And we have one graduated this year, and, you know, that's a whole nother thing. And I keep thinking, how are we going to afford college? There is no money for college. We're lucky to be able to afford a new pair of tennis shoes for our kids.
You know, you, I think, speak for a whole lot of Americans. And first of all, thank you for your service. I mean, I'm headed to my hometown, Holton, tomorrow morning to say goodbye to a very dear friend's son. And we need to keep that in mind when we're taking care of people when they come home. At least help them have jobs available by passing the right policies to encourage that. But I'm not going to disagree with you. A lot of my colleagues are millionaires. Every year one magazine does this, it's something like the
Richest.
yeah, 50 richest members of Congress. And I'm like, you know, look at John Kerry and some of these guys, and you just go, how can they relate? But I will tell you, there are a few of us in that body. I mean, you elected a Kansas farm kid that didn't have a pot to pee in when I was born. And like you, I just tried to work hard. You save every dime you have for the day that you don't have a job. And so there are a few folks, I think, that get it. And the challenge is, I think, for me, is to educate people and to ask my colleagues to come here. So many of them don't understand the challenges that we have in middle America. We don't have the ocean. We don't have a mountain. We have the best, hardworking, most honest people you'd ever want to know. But we work hard. Ag production is huge. And they don't even, some people in Congress don't even know where food comes from. I mean, it's hard to believe. I mean, we can't even get our mind. They don't know.
They never go to a grocery store.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, you know, that's a good reminder. I need to bring some of my colleagues from the coast, and they need to see what our lifestyle is like. and how we struggle, because,
Chores at 6:30, just bring them over.